Mm, okay, so we are doing our live YouTube discussion on tonight, pertaining to my survival of domestic violence. And I'm also going to leave this up to all viewers to watch um, at a later time if you're unable to join us live. So I'm just trying to get everything that I need here. 1 second. Let me see. Let me load one of the documents. Transformed. Give me a moment. Bear with me. I'm so sorry. I had some technical difficulties earlier trying to get everything going with the microphones and all of that. And so um, now I am trying to pull up my slide with all of the questions that I received from all of you who, you had some really good questions, by the way. You had some things that, really made me think, what responses. However, I didn't want to think too much because I didn't want to give a rehearsed answer. I wanted to give one that was genuine. And yeah, just talk about that, right? So I'll go ahead and get started, and you all can join me as you can. And then whoever needs to watch the replay can. We've been on for 4 minutes now. So I am TQ Thomas, and thank you so much for tuning in to watch me for this, or to join me, shall I say, and sit with me for this transparent discussion regarding domestic violence. I have written a book. It's called I Married Someone Else's Husband, and I cover up the name. I cover up my name because at the time that I wrote this book, I was not married to my big fine husband that I'm married to now. And so I'm in the process actually of rewriting this book. I feel like I was very vague to an extent because even when I went back and read some of the things in this book, or shall I say, when I went back and read the entire book, um, I was like, why did I leave that out? Or why did I cut it off there? Why didn't I share everything? Why didn't I go into more detail and all of that? So that is definitely what I am doing with the next one that I am writing. So basically, it's going to be the same book. It is titled I Married Someone Else's Husband because he was someone else's husband. He was not mine, and I ain't had no business messing with him. But I had to go through it. It was purposed. And so I'm a believer of that. I'm a believer of purpose. And I believe that I had to go through it so that I can help someone else. Um, and so that is the purpose of us being here tonight, October 31st, the last day of October, Halloween. Um, I could not let this month end without sharing my story on domestic violence survival, because while this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And it may be, it may share some other awarenesses within this month. However, a lot of people shine the light on breast cancer awareness. And while I have the utmost respect for all survivors and fighters who are still going through it, I also believe that it is equally important for people to recognize that there are victims of domestic violence out there who some are still in their situations and others are survivors like myself. And so, in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I have requested that you all would join me as I share my story of surviving domestic violence. Tuesdays, every other Tuesday, rather, is my transformed virtual book club. We meet every other Tuesday. And Transform Virtual Book Club is a part of my ministry. It's something that I was given and told, instructed to do so that I can kind of help give that safe space, that community, that group that rallies around other women who are in need of support, who are in need of that safe space, who are in need of that community, even sisterhood. We have some really deep discussions. So for this meeting, before I get ahead of myself, let me just say for this meeting, you do not have to be a member of the TVBC, which is Transform Virtual Book Club. Simply subscribe to the YouTube channel and watch live as you are doing now. And if you are watching the replay, welcome. I'm glad to have you watch the replay. Thank you so much. So hello and welcome again. TVBC was started in January 2023. My vision for this book club is not to be like any other book club that's out there. So often, women are expected to wear their beautiful smiles, even through all that hides behind them. We were chosen. We were chosen to carry. We were chosen to birth children. We were chosen to nurture. And all of that while maintaining households, enduring relationship stuff, and all of the other tasks that life hands us. And so often we walk in our stuff, carrying it like a garment that belongs on our back or on our shoulders or around our necks. TVBC is a safe place, again, as I stated earlier, a place to pour out and release instead of suppressing. And it's also a place to receive and be filled up with what's meant for you. Um, I'm not real good with drama. So if I notice or recognize that someone is trying to bring about drama, confusion, chaos, bitterness, whatever, then this is not the safe place for you. This is not that community for you, because all that I just mentioned and stated, I hold very near and dear to my heart. And I'm serious about it. I'm pretty serious about everything that I do, especially in ministry, because I not only represent my own self, I'm a representative of God that I serve. Sorry. So our books are chosen with purpose, a purpose that speaks to each of us individually in its own unique way. So tonight is a book club night. And while I have my TVBC members logged on, I also am sharing this special discussion with the public as well, which is why I am on YouTube. In honor of October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I chose to speak on this topic this evening, which is the last day of October, the last day of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. However, domestic violence takes place every day of the year. I was once that person that was suffering in silence. I was once that person that would not tell what was going on with me. And I know that there are so many out there. And so it is with purpose that I intentionally have this transparent discussion with you all, answer these questions that you've asked as transparently as I possibly can, and prayerfully help someone who is in need or who is in that situation and don't know which way to go next. So we are currently reading Viola Davis's book, Finding Me. And it is an excellent read, by the way. It's an excellent read. Well, we're wrapped up. We've wrapped up now. I say currently reading, but it's just, I find it so ironic that this is the book that we read on tonight, on this month, rather, this entire month. We wrapped it up today. And in the book, Viola shares what her mother went through at the hands of her father. And it is really tough. It's a lot to think that people actually go through those types of things, but it's real. And you never know when you're staring someone in the face who is a survivor. You never know when you're staring someone in the face who has to go home to their abuser, because I did that for 7 years of my life and nobody ever knew until I was out of it. And I say nobody, but my children did. My children knew because they lived in it. But I stared in the face of people every day. And on Sundays, when it was time to go to church, I would go to church with this practiced smile, this rehearsed smile that I had to wear, or felt like I had to wear, just to conceal the pain and the hurt and the fear that was really still there. So, in Viola's book, she shares a great deal of the violence that she witnessed against her own mother at the hands of her father. So normally we'd be discussing the conclusion of this book tonight. However, I chose to do it this way instead. Why? Because I know that there are so many out there who are suffering in silence, as I once did, just like Viola, shall I say. And I couldn't let this month go by. Again, I know that I reiterate that, and it's just that important. And remember, this is live. This is not anything rehearsed. And again, I did receive questions. However, when I received the questions, I just read them in that moment. And I didn't go back. I didn't try to rehearse the responses. I did not want anything practiced. I wanted it to be authentic. I wanted it to be straight from my heart. And that's it. That's all I wanted. So I have a list of questions here that I will be answering live. And the first is, was the abuse physical, mental, or both? The abuse that I endured was both. I'll just flat out say both. However, when you endure physical abuse, it turns mental. Okay. Um, I do not know. I will not try to give justification or reason as to why my abuser chose that path. I'm not going to say chose me. I'm just going to say why he chose that path. I cannot tell you what he went through in his life. I wasn't there. He shared a little bit with me about seeing his dad come home and beat his mom and things like that. And I know that when you become a product of your environment. So I know that when he um, lived in that as a child, that it caused him to suppress some things that he wasn't able to express, and not having gotten the help that he needed, the therapy that he needed, or whatever it was that he needed, the healing that he needed, he then turned into the abuser. I do not know if I'm his only victim. I have no clue. I can only pray that everyone else who suffered at the hands of this man, that they have received the healing that I have, the journey that I allowed myself to go on so that I could heal to be a better version of myself. So my abuse was physical. It was a lot of mental abuse as well. And so with mental, I say mental, but that for me, um, verbal and emotional ties into that because it all affects you mentally. So there was, of course, verbal abuse, being called out of my name, um, and the emotional abuse, and just wearing all of it. It was definitely mentally draining as well. So it was equal to me on both sides. The next question: were there warning signs looking back that maybe you missed or ignored? Were there warning signs looking back that maybe you missed? Red flag. Somebody else, two people asked this question actually. And someone else said, were there red flags that you didn't recognize? And so, yeah, definitely. Hindsight is 2020. So he was jealous, extremely jealous. And this honestly was from the beginning, like right in the dating gate. He was such a jealous person. Um, for me, giving, and I say this because this is why I have to go back and write some more of my book, because I have to give more background of who I am, who I was, what led up to it, and why the jealousy that he displayed, why it looked like care, why it looks like love to me. Okay. So, yeah, I'll go back into that into the book. So you'll have to get the book in order to know all of that. But yeah, he was very, 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 very jealous. I recall one time when we used to skate every Sunday night, adult skate night. Um, and he, well, a collection of us skaters, we would go to the Waffle House to eat afterwards. And this skate was like from 8 to midnight, something like that. And after we left from the skating rink, we'd get to the Waffle House. So we'd be there about 12:30 until maybe 2 a.m., whatever time. So when I say a collection of us, it was probably about 20 people that would go to this Waffle House to eat. You know, Waffle House is not that big. So those 20 people took up the entire Waffle House. But one particular night, he had already, expressed his interest in me. And I didn't know that we had put titles on anything, but I know that he would hang around a lot. And he would contact me daily. We would do different things and go different places and stuff like that. But I didn't know that we were exclusive because we hadn't put titles on anything. Well, anyway, we decided that we were going to hang out at Waffle House a lot longer than the rest of our group. These people had done eaten their food, gone back home, and we were still in the parking lot of the Waffle House. So we were just talking. And at the time, I actually was still living with my oldest children's father. We were friends. We weren't, together, but I was still living in his home. because I didn't have a place of my own. However, standing out there this time of morning, because like I said, we would eat from about 12:30 to 2 a.m. By now, it's probably 4 a.m. that we're still in the parking lot. And my children's father, he contacted me. He wanted to know, hey, are you okay? I know you usually get in about a certain time and you're not here. So he contacted me. Um, that was nothing. My phone went off. That was nothing. Well, somebody else from the skating rink, another gentleman, decided to send me a text message to see if I had made it home. And for me, this person was just a friend. However, I don't mention his name. My abuser, I never mention his name. I didn't even mention his name in my book. I changed his name in the book. I don't mention his name in my house. I just don't. Yeah. So my abuser, I'll say that. He then seen the phone go off. Who keeps texting your phone? Who keeps calling you or trying to get a hold of you? This and that. This time of morning, and I was like, people want to know if I'm okay. I'm usually not out at this time of morning. I'm usually home by now. So he got really upset and he snatched my phone from me and he threatened to throw it down the street, this and that. I said, why are you acting like that about my phone? Like, this is my phone. We are not even together. And he was like, oh, we not. I thought we were together today. So this is just an example of the jealousy that I dealt with right out the gate. However, again, knowing my history and the background of how I was raised, some of the traumas that I went through as a child and things like that, this type of attention displayed that he cared for me, that he was, really into me. And it was different from anything that I had experienced before. So when you are a product of, um, I didn't grow up in an abusive home. My dad, I didn't ever see my dad hit my mom or anything like that. They really didn't argue m- uh, outside of the normal disagreements that all husbands and wives have. So I didn't know what abuse really looked like. So I couldn't recognize it right off. However, I did grow up with rejection and feeling a sense of rejection, but that comes from how I came into the world. And when you grow up feeling, this sense of rejection, certain things look a certain way to you. So again, his jealousy was immediate. Um, he always had issues with me turning him down. If he wanted to do something and I would tell him no or whatever, he had an issue with that. And again, to me, it looked different from those eyes than they do from the healed heart eyes that I have now. Next question. And I hope I answered that. If not, I'll give you all an opportunity to ask your questions as we go through. Next question. Were there any, oh, that I tied them together, red flags. The next one was, what was your worst fight to experience? Um, the worst. As I think about that, honestly, like 3 different fights come to mind. I cannot say that there was one that I would have considered to be the worst. Uh, I'll share 2 of them that I can recall right off. The first was I call it the dragging, not dragon, the dragging in the garage. So this particular time, we had to go out of state with my church. So we left from Texas going to Louisiana for this particular service, and we drove. We drove. We were in my vehicle, and by this time we already lived together. Okay. So I don't remember if we were married yet. Don't remember. It's not important, I guess. Anyway, we went out of state with the church, and on the way back, he was being very childish. Like, I guess he wasn't getting the attention that I sang in the choir, which is why we went out of state with the church. I sang in the choir, and the choir was going to Louisiana to sing at another church. And I'm paying attention to my choir members, co-members and things like that. And we went out to eat and all of this stuff afterwards. And I don't know if, his jealousy kind of heightened because we're amongst these people and I'm having conversation and I'm laughing because others didn't treat me like him. But on the way back, he just became very petty and very childish and just, saying certain things, trying to get a response out of me. And I really wasn't for it. I just wanted to take this 5-hour drive back home and have a little bit of peace. We stopped at the gas station, and this fool acted like he was having a heart attack. So he wasn't getting the attention that he wanted from me. So he gets out of the car. I'll pump the gas. I'll pump it. I'll pump it. I was like, well, if you're going to sit there and act like that, I know how to pump gas, So I got out and I was getting ready to walk inside. So as I'm walking inside to pay for the gas, this nut, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have all of these fun adjectives and things like that. This nutcase, fell on the ground behind the car at the gas station, in the public, around strangers. Didn't care how he looked. Fell on the ground holding his chest like he was dying. I'm sorry, unaliving. Can I say dying on YouTube? I know TikTok be tripping. Anyway, he was holding his chest, falling on the ground like, I turned around because, literally the way he fell, I was like, is he okay? Initially, it was like, is he okay? But when I noticed the drama behind the fall, I was like, yeah, this dude is a nutcase. So I looked at him and I was like, get up. My chest hurt. My chest hurt. Okay. So I just went on in the store. I said, well, whatever, just lay there, whatever you want to do. So I go in the store, pay for the gas. I come out. Dude's still laying there. He's still laying on the ground. Now, his gasoline done spilled all in his ground. It's people done urinated. It's alcohol. It's all kinds of stuff on the ground. It's the ground. And he's still laying there. So I politely went on, stepped on over. I literally crossed over him. I stepped one foot over the body and then brought the other foot over. And I went to pump my gas. And I got in the car when I was done and I started it. I put the car in drive and I took my foot off the brake. And when I did that, he noticed that the car was rolling. All of a sudden, he was no longer having a heart attack and he jumped up off of the ground and ran to the passenger side and jumped in the car. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not making this up. I'm not here for just a good story. That really happened. So I was like, oh, your heart attack is gone now? Your heart attack gone? He was like, man, you. And then I was some more choice words and was called some more names and all of that stuff. And yeah, we drove the rest of the way home. So I guess he sat on his anger while we were driving because I was driving down the street jamming, just, not worried about anything, not bothered. And it was bothering him, I guess. It fueled his anger. And by the time we got back to the house, back home, um, I pulled into the garage and went in. I don't remember how much time it was in between pulling in the garage and the fighting when it started. I just know that the fighting started shortly after that. It was escalated by, him yelling and telling me that I didn't care that he was having a heart attack and his chest was hurting. And I said, well, if you was having a heart attack, then you was miraculously healed on the spot when I put that car in drive. And that pissed him off further. Um, that was just the extent of my care and concern at this point. But he decided that, when I turned around to walk off, that's when he grabbed my head by the hair. I grabbed my hair in the back of my head. And when he did that, we started fighting. And of course, he would overpower me and do things to make me fall. And then when I fell on the ground, this particular time, we were in the hallway of the house, and the hallway led to um, the first door that you would get to would be the garage, the door that goes out to the garage, and the last door was the door to our bedroom. Um, and so when I fell, he grabbed me by, I don't remember if it was by the shoulder or by the arm or something, but he pulled me to the door going to the garage. And he then pulled me over I don't know what the little thing is called. You go into the garage and then you step down. Yeah, the step down. He pulled me over that. And then he grabbed my hair again and started dragging me through the garage to his vehicle, which was outside of the garage. So he pressed the button in the midst of all of this. He pressed the button and pulled me out there, dragging me. I had on no shoes. I was kicking and screaming. I literally was screaming help for my life, and it seemed like nobody heard me. Later on, I found out that my oldest daughter, she did hear me. And I actually had a cousin living with us at the time, and she was like, she didn't know what was going on. She thought it was somebody else. She didn't know it was me. But he dragged me to his truck, pulled out his gun, made me get into the truck, and he put the truck in reverse. And the next thing you know, we were driving, and he had the gun on the seat, but his hand was on it, and it was facing me the entire time that he was driving. And I was like, where are we going? Where are you taking me to? And he was, shut up, and calling me bees. And I was like, where are we going? I want to know where we're going. I'm going back home to my kids. I'm not going to be out here. I don't have no shoes on. Look how I'm looking and all of this stuff. Just trying to give him reasons to come to his senses and say, yeah, you do kind of look bad. Let me take you back home. But he didn't. So he drove to, like, here in tech, well, where we lived at the time, it was like this fishing area, but it was not really, it was underneath the overpass, if that makes sense. So you would have to exit off of the freeway, or the highway, and then drive down to the grass. And underneath the overpass was like a fishing area. Well, he drove down there. It was pitch black, dark. It was dark. It was nobody out there but us. And his truck was black. He got out of the truck, and I just knew that he was going to come around on the other side to make me get out. But again, I was barefoot. And so he got out and he walked to the water. He turned his headlights off, but he left the truck running. Turned his headlights off. So it's completely dark out here. I followed him with my eyes watching, like, where is he going? So I'm thinking when he didn't come over to the passenger side, I was thinking, okay, maybe he gonna kill himself, off himself. Maybe he's going to jump in the water and I can leave at that point. And I'm just waiting on the moment that I can escape. Well, he got to the bank side and was just standing there and then started screaming. Nobody was around. We were in an area that was not residential. Nobody was around. Nobody could hear. So if the gun went off, then possibly, but he took the gun with him. Um, when he did that, he started screaming. I was like, okay, now is my chance to go. So I leaned over to the driver's side and I just wanted to press the brake, put the truck in reverse, and just press the gas. I wasn't even thinking about getting my body into the driver's seat. I just leaned over and was trying to press it and go. I didn't know if I was going to wreck the truck or what was going to happen. I just wanted to go. And when he saw the brake lights, he took off running with the gun pointed at the windshield. And I saw it and I froze like he's going to kill me and I have to go back home to my kids. He's going to kill me. Um so he was like, get off, get off. You better not touch my truck. You better not touch my truck. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to kill you. And again, I froze and I was just like, okay. So he ran back to the truck with the gun pointed at me. What are you doing? What you think you're doing? And I was like, what are we doing out here? I was just pressing the brake to get your attention because you weren't paying attention. And he was like, yeah, right. You was trying to leave. And so he got back in the truck. I don't know what kind of demons he called to him while he was standing there at the water. But it made him get in the truck and drive back to the house. So that was one of the more bad of all of the fights. There was another one. I told you I would tell you too. There was another one where he went to his daughter from a previous marriage. He went to her party and her mother, the daughter's mother, she was remarried and her husband was there at the party. Well, he walked in, my abuser. He walked into the party, seen the mom and seen her new husband, and I guess it made him feel some type of way. I wasn't there. I was at the house. My baby at the time, I think, was 2. And she, yeah, I wouldn't go into the party. But I guess this is what I was told. He walked in and he must have felt some type of way about the mom and the new husband. But I was thinking, like, why would he feel some type of way if he wasn't with her anymore? But whatever. You never understand the mind of an abuser. So he went and pulled the daughter to the corner and he started talking to her about the mama and the husband. You're at your daughter's birthday party and you want to talk to her about her mama and her mama's husband. Yeah, the mental instability. The girl started crying because you talking about my mommy. And when that happened, mom got angry. Why is my baby crying on her birthday at her party? So daddy had to leave. You need to leave. You can't come and mess up her birthday. That's not what this day was about. You need to leave. And he's like, this is my daughter. I don't need to leave, nothing, blah, blah, blah. Well, at this point, you're being aggressive with somebody else's wife. And that guy decided, you're not going to talk to my wife like that. So he stepped up. And then all of a sudden it became another thing. Oh, now your husband want to threaten me and all of this stuff. Well, no, he wanted to protect his wife. But in the mind of an abuser, they don't think like that. So he got mad and left. He came home, and at this point, I didn't know anything. I had found out all of this later from her. Um, and at this point, he came back home, went straight into the room, walked in the house, didn't speak, went straight into the room and changed clothes. He came out. Y'all, I promise I'm trying to tell this story without it being comical, but I thank God also that I am so beyond that and I'm so far past it that, I can tell it and laugh about it because it's just crazy the way it sounds. But anyway, he came in, went to the room and changed clothes. He came out of the room with some army fatigues on. Yeah. Yeah. He went in looking one way and he came out looking like a black Rambo. Yep, he did. I was like, where are you going? Why do you have on military clothes all of a sudden? I'm gonna go kill her. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill my daughter. And then I'm gonna come back. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? What happened? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, they want to show me up and all this stuff. I mean, it was all an attack on his pride. And he was just huffing and puffing because, nobody was going to show him up at this party. And I was like, man, what is going on with this dude? Is something wrong? So, yeah. He was like, as a matter of fact, you're going to drive me. I said, no, I'm not driving you nowhere. I'm going to stay right here where I'm at. No, you're going to take me. You're going to take me. I'm killing everybody. I'm going to kill her ass. I'm going to kill her husband. I'm going to kill my daughter. Then I'm going to kill you. All of a sudden, I was in it. Then he threatened, I'm going to kill our baby, my 2-year-old daughter at the time. Was she 2 yet? I don't even think she was 2. I think she was like 14 months. I think she was just over 1. But anyway, and then I'm going to kill myself. That's what he said. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going. That don't have nothing to do with me. I don't know what happened at the party, but I don't want nothing to do with it. Why are you trying to drag me into it? I don't have nothing to do with that. But he was serious at this point. He had literally changed. And one thing about it, whenever we would fight, his eyes, the whites of his eyes would turn red. I'm not like red. Like, I don't have anything close by, but they would turn red. And I remember one time I was looking at him and I said, I can see the devil in your eyes. And when I said that, that is what stopped him from hitting me. This was a different fight. I'm sorry. I jumped out of that story for a minute. That was what stopped him from hitting me that one time. I said, I can see the devil in your eyes. Mind you, we went to church every Sunday. I don't know if he went because he wanted to watch me, but I was in the choir. I was a faithful member and I was going to get there on Sunday and sing. And he was there on Sunday sitting out in the congregation with everybody else. But I was like, man. And when I said, I see the devil in your eyes are just red as fire. And he was like, he just stopped and looked at me like he was scared. And I started telling him I rebuked the devil and all of this other stuff. And I was like, oh, it worked? Okay. And I started rebuking the devil and all this stuff. And he came back and he was like, thank you for praying for me. Thank you for rebuking the devil on my behalf. And anyway, back to the story. So he got his gun again. I think he had a couple of guns on him at this point. And he got this big, huge sledgehammer. Like it was probably this big, the hammer part. And I don't know, maybe the handle was probably like 18 inches long. This was a huge hammer. So he had all this stuff in his hand. And I'm like, you going to kill somebody? I'm not going to be a part of that. He's like, yeah, you going to drive me. And I mean that. I'm not playing with you or I'll kill you right here, right now. And I'm like, okay, fine. You want to go kill people? Fine. Let's go. So we got in the car. I had to strap my baby in her car seat. Thankfully, my older two children at the time were at their dad's house and they weren't there to witness all this. But unfortunately, my baby girl was. And, she was too young to know what was going on, but I'm sure that everything in her could sense something. And he then made me get in the car. When we got in the car, I remember I had on this red dress that buttoned up. And when we got in the car, he turned around and looked at my daughter and said something to her like, it's going to be the last day that you're alive or something like that. And I reached and I kind of like grabbed his arm and told him, no, don't say that to her. Leave her alone. We don't have anything to do with this. And he turned and he hit me with the hammer. But the way that he hit me, it wasn't like an intentional pick up the hammer and bust you over the head. He turned around and he bumped me with the hammer. And so the top part of the head hit me like right here. So it split the inside of my mouth. And so the next thing you know, I'm bleeding all down this red dress. So it looked like water on my dress because the dress was red and the blood was just coming down. And I thought he knocked out a tooth. As much blood as I had, I thought he knocked out a tooth. And I was like, oh my God, you knocked out a tooth. And I started hitting him like open hands. I started like hitting him. You knocked out my tooth and all this stuff. And he grabbed my dress and he was like, I knock out your tooth. And he just pulled it and one of the buttons popped loose. And I don't know, some composure was gained. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take you. I have to stop at the bail bonds place though, because my mom sent me money and told me to bail my brother out of jail. And so I got to stop over there. I knew. Now I was making this story up to tell him, but it was the only thing that I can think of to get out of the car with him. And so he looked at me and he said, you better not be lying to me. And I was like, I'm not lying, but I knew that the bail bonds place was in the same parking lot as the police station. And it was right across the street from our neighborhood. We lived towards the back of the neighborhood, I'll say in the middle. And the police station was right across the street, had a little bail bonds trailer in the parking lot. And I said, I'm not lying. I'm going to stop at the bail bonds place. I'm going to go in there and fill out the paperwork to bond my brother out. And then I'm going to get back in the car and I'll take you on your killing spree. And he was like, all right. So when we pulled in the parking lot of the bondsman, he said, you better go in there and do what you said and come back out. And I said, okay. I tried to get my baby out to take her in with me. He said, oh no, you leave her right here with me. Because if you try something, that's it. And I was like, I'm not going to try anything. I told you that I was just going to bond my brother out and then we can go. So I went inside of the place, went inside the bondsman office. And when I walked in, there was a lady sitting at the desk as soon as you walk inside. And I told her, ma'am, do not look out the window. Do not even make it seem like I'm talking to you. Just listen to what I'm going to tell you. Please don't make no sudden moves. Don't pick up the phone. Don't do anything. I said, but there is a guy outside. If you look at the front of my dress, it's blood on my dress. That's not water. If you look at my mouth, the blood is coming from my mouth. He has a couple of guns. He has this huge sledgehammer. He's dressed like Rambo. And I said he's dressed like Rambo. I said, and I don't know if he's in the car, but my baby is in the car. I said, I don't want you to pick up that phone because if you do, he will know that you're calling the police. And she just stood there in shock, like, Is this real? Am I being punked? I said, this is real. This is real. I said, but again, I don't know if you have a button or something that you can push like the cash registers at the gas station have. I said, but I need you to get the police here because I'm not dying today and neither is my baby. So she said, ma'am, okay, I'm going to step away from my desk. I'm going to walk into the other room. He will not be able to see inside of there from outside. I'm going to take my cell phone and I'm going to call somebody. So she did that. She walked to the back office and she took her cell phone with her. And I could hear her talking. And she called them and she said, hey, this is her name. And she said, at the bail bonds office here in the front of the parking lot, she said, I have a lady in here that there's a guy outside threatening to kill her. I believe that he's her abuser and they have a baby outside in the car. And he's trying to make her take him somewhere to kill some people. And he threatened to kill her and the child. I need the police over here immediately because he's outside. He has guns. And I do not want to make a scene because her baby is in the car. Please do not drive over here with lights on. And I just took a deep exhale because what she said was so perfect. And I felt like I would be rescued. So she came out. She had some papers in her hand and she acted like I needed to sit down and fill these papers out. So by this time, I could see him out the window walking, pacing back and forth, just pacing back and forth. And I was like, okay, let me act like I'm writing on these papers. So I just started writing and I started writing what happened at the house. And by this time, I seen a police car driving up and he didn't have on lights, but he was driving up. So when the police car hurried up and drove, I seen him, my abuser, run to the soda machine like he was getting soda. Like he wasn't doing nothing. He was just getting some soda. So the police officer walked right up to him, told him put his hands behind his back. He was like, "Why? What's going on? What I do? What's going on?" Blah, blah, blah. And then when he had him handcuffed, that's when I went to the door and I opened the door and I just started crying. I was so thankful. I feel like I saved my own life. I saved my baby's life. I saved his ex-wife's life. I saved her husband's life and I saved his child's life in that day. And it just was such a relief. And so I just started crying and the police put him in the back of the car and then they came inside and started talking to me. Asking me questions, what happened, blah, blah, blah. And I started telling them, what all happened. And he said, I can see your mouth is busted. And I pulled down my lip to show him. And it was literally sliced open on the inside of my lip I guess from when the hammer hit and my inside of my lip cut. My teeth was cut the inside of my lip. So they took him to jail and he stayed in jail for, I think he got 6 months, but in Houston, this particular county jail that he went to, you get 2 for 1. So he got 6 months, but only had to serve 3 months. So the next question. Why or what made you stay? I got this question from a couple of people also. So I kind of put it together. So one person said, why did you stay? One person said, what made you stay? I think another person sent it in and said, why did you feel the need to stay? Honestly, fear. That would be the first thing that I think of. Most women, when they're in a situation like this, that is like the first thing that they think about when it comes to leaving. What is my life going to be like? How will I make it? What is he going to do if I leave? What if he finds me and kills me? What if he follows through on all of his threats that he has made all of this time? Um, when a woman goes through abuse, she is literally brainwashed. And I'm sorry, I keep looking at both screens, so you guys just bear with me as I talk to all of you. Uh, but yeah, when a woman goes through abuse, she's brainwashed. She is constantly belittled and made to think or believe that she can't make it on her own, that she can't survive on her own, and nobody's going to want her because all she sees is the abused person that she looks in the mirror and sees every day. She doesn't recognize her value. She doesn't recognize her worth. She doesn't know that she's worth anything or that she's invaluable. Um, she doesn't know that she can make it on her own. Most times when abusers they kind of like to isolate you. They become so they're really dependent on you more so than you may be on them, but in that particular moment you can't see that. Um you feel like you're just the one who is dependent on them constantly all the time. You need them for this, you need them for that, blah blah blah, but really it's the other way around. And so that's the reason why they isolate you from your friends, they isolate you from your family. Some of them don't want you to work a job. He didn't ever tell me that he didn't want me to work a job, and I did work um, a few jobs actually, but he was always feeling like it was okay for him to just show up. And so that started to have an impact on my work. Like, you can't just show up at my job. But he thought he could. He would show up, and not only show up, I found out later that he was showing up, making friends with other people, and having them watch me. Literally having them watch me. So it was deep. It was really deep. So that would be what made me stay. Okay, that's why I stayed initially. Next question. Did you ever tell anyone why or why not? I got this question from a few people also. Initially, everything that I gave was very, very, very subtle. So subtle that you really didn't know. Because again, I had this rehearsed smile and could put on a face like, oh, nothing's going on. And people believe that. I believed it when I went out and had practiced my smile before I showed up at church on Sunday and all of this stuff. So initially, if I would say anything, it would kind of be like, what would you do if you knew like somebody that was being abused? I don't know what advice to give them or whatever. So it was very subtle hints, nothing definite. Um, I think that I dropped what I thought were clues to see if anyone would pick up on the things that I was saying, or try to convince me to leave him. But the police station incident, the bail bonds incident, that was probably the first time that I really had told someone what was going on. Actually, with the exception of one of his cousins, who ironically was a police officer. Look at there. His cousin was a police officer, and his cousin always wanted to come over our house Sunday dinner. I would always cook, and he wanted to come over and eat. He was a single guy at the time, and he would come over. And this one particular time, this fool decided he wanted to hit me while his cousin was there. And he didn't like the way I talked or said something to him or whatever. And so he wanted to hit me while his cousin was there. And his cousin got up and grabbed him and was like, no, man, no, don't do that. You can't be doing that. You can't do that. And he was like, I don't care about her. Da, da, da. And the cousin was like, no, man, you can't be hitting on her. But being a police officer, I'm like, you should have took his ass to jail, but he didn't. He didn't. Um, So that was that. That was the only people that knew something was going on. What was the final straw that empowered you to leave? My baby boy. My baby boy. Yep. I told you, so if you're following, um, I told you that my baby girl was like 14 months at the time that this bail bondsman situation took place. And then with my baby boy who came after my baby girl, so yes, we did have another child. Um, my baby boy was one. Hmm. Something about these babies at one. But at this time, it's so crazy because we weren't together anymore, but I needed help with the kids. I had gotten my own place and I was working, had a great job, and I was in a role that I had to do my job. And he wasn't doing nothing. I think he had lost his job or whatever. So I told him, you can come over and babysit your kids and cook them something to eat so that they can get to bed and get ready for school. Cause I would get home maybe about 10 o'clock at night. And so I felt like I needed the assistance. I didn't have family near that could help me. And so he was available and he came to stay with us. And he felt that staying with us, that meant that, I guess over time, it meant that we were back together, which for me, it did not. But for him, he felt like, oh, I'm here, I'm cooking, helping, I'm doing this and that. I didn't need a house husband. I didn't need no house dude. No, I didn't need that. But he felt like he was doing his part. So my baby boy, this nutcase would, not my baby boy, the abuser, the nutcase would log on to my social media platforms. And he logged into one of them. I don't know if it was like MySpace or something back then, but he logged into one of them and he was like reading messages. I don't know why, but he was sitting on the couch reading messages on the computer on my social media account. So under his breath, he said, stupid. I don't know if he called me a stupid bee or what, but he said something. My baby boy heard him. And my baby boy knew we didn't talk like that. We didn't say certain words. We didn't call each other stupid and all of this stuff. But he said it. And my baby boy was in ears length, reach of him. And so he heard it and he started crying and was, Mommy, Mommy, he said stupid. He said stupid. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Like arguing with a 1-year-old. And I was like, why would the baby say that you said stupid if you didn't say stupid? What are you over there doing? What are you talking about? He's like, man, I ain't say that. He lying. I ain't say that. I said, okay, now you're calling my baby a liar. So at that point, I was just over it. Like, okay, this is another innocent 1-year-old. And no. So I told him, I said, why don't you just get up and leave? Get out of my house. I just want you gone. Bye. And he was like, man, I ain't even do nothing. I ain't say nothing. It wasn't until he got up to start packing his stuff that I looked at the computer and saw what he was doing. He was on my social media reading a message between me and a friend of mine, and he thought that we were talking about him. We weren't. We were talking about her man, but it was cool. I was just over it. I was completely drained, completely exhausted. Felt like, you know what? They don't belong to him no more. But yeah, I was over it. I told him to get out. Just get out. I don't want you around anymore. I'm completely done. And so it was funny that we didn't have a physical altercation the day that I gave up, the day that I was completely done. It was my baby, seeing my baby like, okay, I've already dragged 3 kids at this point through this. I'm not going to drag the last one through this. So you need to get out. So he started going and, he was on the other side of the door on the outside and I was inside and I was getting ready to close the door, but I said, oh, and give me my house key. Give me my house key. And he took the key off the ring, did it all aggressively, taking the key off the ring. And then he was like, here. And he tried to stab it into my hand. He reached through the door to give it to me and he tried to stab it into my hand. And I was like, I kind of snatched my hand back, but I also snatched the key at the same time. And I was like, okay, thank you, bye. And when I started trying to, close the door, then he got mad because again, it was another one of those situations where he wasn't getting the attention that he thought he should get. So he wanted to fight then. So he tried to start hitting me through the door, but I was like backing off. And so he didn't get his hand on me at that time. But yeah, he was mad that he had to leave. And so that was that. That was what empowered me to leave. My baby boy was the one who who had not witnessed anything as far as the physical goes. And so I had high hopes of his innocence. Okay. And yeah, there was no fight that night, but I was tired. And that's what empowered me to leave or get rid of him because he left. It was my house. Next question. Did the abuse you suffered cause you any change in your self-perception? Yes. Yeah, I think it did. For a long time, I didn't know who I was. For a long time, I had become so good at rehearsed life, so good at putting on a fake face that it changed my perception of my being. Yeah. I had to figure me out all over again. And then I went on and got into other relationships and even another marriage excuse me, that I should not have been in because I wasn't healed. I wasn't healed. I wasn't ready. And I should have taken more time for myself, but I didn't. And anybody knows that when you are not healed and when you go into something from a broken place, you bleed on people that didn't cut you. So I did not want to continue bleeding on people that didn't cut me, but I went into other relationships and another marriage, which is the name that's on my that's on my book. That's why I covered it up. Because he wasn't uh my destiny, I'll say. I firmly believe and know with everything in me that I am living in my destiny now. I know that. But yeah, my perception of myself changed. These are some great questions. Let's see. What did you learn about yourself from this? I guess that kind of ties into the perception one. But what did I learn about myself? I wrote 3 things down. I learned that I am stronger than I could have imagined. I'm a lot stronger than I could have imagined. But the tricky thing about that, and I tell my husband now this, I shouldn't have even said now. I should just say I tell my husband this because he's my only husband. But I tell my husband this now that a lot of times when women are strong, they're strong because they have to be, not because they want to be. And I am so appreciative. That's why I say I know I'm in my destiny because I can appreciate the fact that I'm able to be that softer person that I've always wanted to be, that I've always felt like, I am not weak, but softer, you know, able to be meek, able to just be delicate, be vulnerable, be that lady. And I wasn't always able to do that. I felt like I had to be strong. I had to be tough. I had to be, um, I don't know, but yeah. I'm stronger than I could have imagined. That's something that I learned. Another thing that I learned about myself is that I had to be weak in order to recognize my strength. I had to be weak in order to recognize my strength. The third thing, I had to go through it. Purpose. I always say purpose is very intentional, and we don't get to choose our story when there is purpose connected to it. We have to experience certain things for our purpose to be fulfilled. And so I am grateful that when I say what I've gone through, I didn't get stuck. I don't say what I went to, I say through because I came through it. So, purpose, intentional, and I love it. Have you forgiven yourself? Wow, absolutely. Absolutely. I had to forgive myself. I've forgiven him actually. I have. I had to forgive him because the forgiveness wasn't for him, it was for me. And in order for me to heal, I had to forgive him. Now, will I have a conversation with him and go and break bread and all this other stuff? No. Do I see him now? No, I don't. Do I have any contact with him now? No, I don't. Do I need to? No, I don't. However, a part of me not mentioning his name and not mentioning his name in my book is because of that, because of the forgiveness. If I wanted to continue to drag him, as we say, Urban Dictionary, if I wanted to continue to drag him, then I would say his name. I would purposely and intentionally slander him, but I do not have to do that. When you get on the other side of healing from the hurt that occurred, you no longer have to inflict pain towards the person that you feel owes you something. I don't feel like he owes me anything. It was, again, intentional. It was on purpose, with purpose, for purpose to be fulfilled. And so a form of my healing was forgiving him and forgiving myself. I When I think about all of the things that he possibly witnessed as a child, you know, it's heartbreaking that he had to endure that. When I think about the things that my children had to endure as children, it's heartbreaking. But again, um, I pray, I truly and sincerely pray that it will teach them not to allow it to take place in their lives, that they don't have to go through it. Their mama went through it so that they don't have to go through it. In fact, I'll let my daughter tell her own story, but my oldest daughter, she was experiencing something with a choice individual that she was once upon a time with. And I wanted to murder him. I did. I was like, I'm not going to see my kids go through the same thing that I went through. So, anyway, but that's her story to tell. So I'll let her tell it. Um, did you become a perpetrator after? I remember who asked me this question. I really do. One of my longtime friends. We've been friends since we were in seventh grade. Did I become a perpetrator? Yes, I did. So when I say bleeding on people that didn't cut me, that was a part of it. So the relationship that I should not have been in, the marriage that I should not have been in, um, yes, I did. Anytime it looked like an argument would escalate into altercation, physical altercation, I would always be the first one to make the move before they had a chance. And this was my mindset. I thought because I was abused by this person, everybody's going to be abusive. And so, yeah, yeah. And I can recall two people, one person that I was married to, um, and one person that I was in a relationship with, that whenever things heightened, yeah, I did become a perpetrator. And I also had to allow God to heal me from that because I didn't want to I wanted to be by myself for a while. And I said I was going to be by myself until my baby boy was grown and gone. He's still not grown or gone, but I didn't remain by myself. My husband came, and I'm like I said, I'm walking in my destiny now. So before I allowed God to heal me, I spewed my venom on anyone that I was in a relationship with, and this was a part of me bleeding on people who did not cut me. I was angry and I needed healing, and because of that anger, I um, I displayed it the same way that I received it. So thank God for healing. That's all I can say. Yes. What would you tell the woman who is currently going through domestic violence and don't know what to do next? This is the last question that I have received prior to this. So what would you tell the woman who is currently going through domestic violence and don't know what to do next? The first thing that I would tell the woman is to leave. Your worth is invaluable and you cannot be replaced. You cannot be replaced. You do not have to think about how. You do not have to think about why. All you need to do is do. Leave. That's all you need to do. You worry about the rest afterwards. And I know it's easy for me to say that because I had moved out and I had gotten my own place and all of this stuff, and I had a roof over my head. And you may not know where your next meal is going to come from if you leave. You may not know how you're going to take a shower. You may not know how you're going to get money. You may not know anything, but there are so many resources out there. Um, I stopped because I just had a thought. I was having a conversation with a friend a couple of days ago, and I told her I don't feel like I'm completely doing everything that I'm supposed to do. But there are so many resources out there that are set up to help victims of domestic violence. And let me also say that women are not the only victims of domestic violence. Men are also victims of domestic violence. There are women, okay? I told you I became one of the perpetrators. There are women out there who abuse men, and there are people in same-sex relationships and marriages who abuse each other. There are things, it's just, it's so much, but there are so many resources out there where you can get the help. If you stay, you may not have an opportunity. I know of so many people whose lives were taken from them, stolen from them, because they stayed, because they chose to stay and did not recognize their worth. And they chose to stay and continue to endure it. And when you stay, because I was in the position, let me tell you, I know firsthand that when you stay because you believe that they're going to change. You believe that someday their eyes are going to open and see you as this beautiful, wonderful, miraculous being that doesn't deserve to be abused. It does not happen like that. It doesn't happen like that. If a person is not going to get the help that they really need, the abuse just does not stop like that. So leave. The second thing that I would tell you is to get your healing. After you leave, get your healing. Go through whatever therapy you need to go through. Go through whatever it takes for you to learn yourself, spend time with yourself, and get to know you all over again. Because until you know you and until you're the healed version of you, you have no business presenting yourself to anybody else, because you will become a perpetrator like I did. So stay by yourself until you get your healing. Oh, which is the next thing. Number 3, stay solo until you are healed. Nobody else deserves to become a victim of your madness, just like you didn't deserve to be a victim to your abuser. Okay, so stay solo until you know that it's time to walk in your destiny. The fourth thing, embrace your new life. This is now life as I know it. Embrace that life. It's okay. Some people are so used to being with people that they feel like they have to be with somebody. You don't. And I also like to tell single people, people who are single and desire to have a mate, you never know why God has you where you are. You know, people, I hear it all the time. Oh, I wish I had a man. Oh, I wish I had a man. You don't know why God has you where you are. There are people out there who embrace their singleness, their singlehood, or whatever you want to call it, and they just love it. Get to a place where you embrace your new life. Love on you. Love on you the way that you wish that they would have. Okay? And the last thing that I'll say is you can. You can. Whatever you have your heart set on doing, do it. You can. All right? You can. Believe in yourself. So, with that, does anyone else have any questions that they would like to ask me? That concludes my answering of the questions that I received previously. Any questions? Any questions? And I don't know if it's a delay, so I'm going to wait a second. No questions. I thank you all so very much for tuning in this evening. It means a lot to me. If you're watching the replay, if you're on live, thank you so much for tuning in and getting through the entire interview. Absolutely. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here for me to share a portion of my story. If you or someone you know is currently living in domestic violence, please seek help. Okay. Your life is invaluable and you cannot be replaced. The Transformed Virtual Book Club can be found on Facebook for any of you who are interested. We meet virtually via Google Meet. We don't meet on Facebook. That's just where we it's the central location place. There we come together and post updates and all that good stuff. But we meet via Google Meet every 2 weeks. And the purpose, again, of the book club is healing the total woman. So it is a part of my ministry and purpose. And I take healing very, 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 very seriously. So yeah, I am so glad that I was able to share this transparency with you all. And I hope and pray that you all will go on about your lives and be the absolute best version of yourself. No matter what you've been through, no matter what you heard, you can do anything that you set your mind to. And guess what? I want you to tell them I said so. God bless you, and you guys have an amazing night. Bye-bye. Transform Virtual Book Club. We will continue